Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, and welcome to Sleep In Sunday, where you get to sleep from 5 a.m. You get 3 extra hours to sleep in, and we drag a very interesting guest of the show that we pick his brain. And today's guest is MC Yogi. I wish I had buttons that were like applause.
Like a little horn.
Yeah, MC Yogi, also known as Nick. We call him Nick, but you might know it's sort of like we didn't know whether we were going to break the character, like we said Batman and Bruce Wayne. Do you ever say that? But he doesn't mind being called Nick. Kaustubha, you want to introduce Nick?
I'll introduce MC Yogi.
Okay.
That's all right.
Introduce MC Yogi. Let's stay in character.
Yeah. From living in a group home for at-risk youth to becoming a renowned yoga teacher and musical innovator, MC Yogi is on a mission to bring good music and good energy into the world. Since the release of his debut record, Elephant Power, in 2008, MC Yogi has been channeling the ancient devotional spirit of India's yoga tradition in original ways and demonstrating new avenues for what devotional yoga music can be through riveting beats and creative, hopeful lyrics. His first 3 records were all #1 on iTunes World Music, and his latest, Ritual Mystical, was #1 on Electric Music. He has since toured the world many times over, headlining at major yoga festivals. In 2017, Harper One published his memoir, Spiritual Graffiti, which won a Silver Nautilus Award for Best Memoir. Congratulations on that, MC Yogi, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for having me. So nice to be here.
Welcome, brother. How are you?
I am so well, man. I'm in good company, so I don't know how it could get better than this.
You live in Northern California, north of San Francisco?
Yeah, I was born in San Francisco and grew up in the Bay Area. And my wife and I, we have actually this month we're celebrating our 19-year anniversary of our yoga studio that we've had here in a little coastal town called Point Reyes Station, right on Highway 1.
You're kidding. It's probably beautiful.
It is beautiful, man. We're very lucky and very blessed, and very grateful that we get to be able to do what we love and serve our community.
How's the pandemic? We were yoga teachers. We can't teach yoga, and you're a musician. You can't tour. How are you guys living?
Well, fortunately, we're also yogis, so that we can kind of simplify, streamline, and just get down to just the very basics. It's been a real challenge, to be honest. Like, we've been streaming live classes, which has been fantastic, just sort of like this call, doing Zoom yoga every weekend, and that's been really cool. But really, it's been a huge transition and shift, moving to just what's absolutely essential. And it kind of puts everything into perspective, and how important our health is, and family is, and friends are, and our community. And so in some ways it's like, a little adjustment, getting back to what's important.
That's beautiful. You're a real yogi. My kids have come out of the woodwork to hear you speak.
I guess I should say something really good then.
You should. And the last time I saw you, me and my daughter were at the Ahimsa Festival. I taught at the Ahimsa Festival in somewhere in Hunter Mountain or something, and my daughter was there, and we're like, MC Yogi's playing, let's dance. And that was the first time I ever like danced fully, just surrendered to dancing and just danced all over the place with my daughter. I've danced before, but this was fun to do with my daughter.
Well, that is, to be honest, that's the one thing I think I miss the most, is just being able to be in a space with everyone, just everyone bouncing, dancing, celebrating, and just rocking together, big crowds. And yeah, that's been, I really appreciate the times when we were able to do that.
Well, we're doing this teacher training here at the farm, and
But no crowd surfing, right?
No crowd surfing. It's small crowd. I tell them to pack together, then I just jump on them, but it's not the same. Jump over the harmonium.
Crowd surfing with a mask on.
But we're doing this teacher training, and I'm like, wow, I haven't had a kirtan in so long. I don't want online kirtans. We do it with our family, but it's not the same when all these other people come. And even teaching a yoga class, taking a yoga class, it's like a whole different world. And truthfully, this takes nothing away from our podcast, but just giving a class, because me and Kaustubha, we give class every day, but we're always like sort of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Just to talk and give a satsang like that, it's just so pleasant. I haven't done it in so long. It's like I miss it. I miss. I think people like us, we love doing what we do.
That's right.
And it sort of got put on hold.
Well, isn't the meaning of Upanishad is to sit close to, or like darshan is like to really be in the presence of, and I think that there's a real power in being able to just be in the same room. And I have to give thanks for this Zoom though, because we used to have like Skype and those different platforms, and they just weren't as good. And I feel like it's a lot better now.
Well, we started this podcast on Zoom, so we were we were pretty Zoom savvy for a year now. And then when the pandemic hit, we were like, oh, we got this, right? And Mara was just like, I got this, figure this all out.
Yeah, Mara.
Yeah,
we did have one day of bombers.
Oh yeah, there was the day. It's almost worth going back to that episode.
We should find out what episode that was when the bombers came.
Do you remember that when people got into Zoom, that everybody started bombing?
Oh yeah,
started coming
that's
and
right.
Crazy white supremacist stuff, and like, who the hell is this? We're like, we have 10 new people today. And they're all like neo-Nazis,
hackers,
but we fixed them. They'll never get in now. You have to jump through so many hoops with Mara to get on this show right now.
You guys chanting so many mantras before you're creating a field. I think it wards off the weirdos, except somehow I got in. I don't know. So you got to chant a little stronger.
You're my type of weirdo, Prabhu. So how can you? Do you have? It's what's really interesting right now. It's hard to make a plan, and almost like the mind wants to make a plan. Like our teacher training, we were just like, let's just do it. It was like that. It was just like a plan because it's at our place. We just did it. But even the people signing up for it, like, is it happening? And so do you feel that urge to make a plan? Especially because you're in a band, you tour.
Well, that is pretty much, that curve has flattened. I mean, the idea of going out and doing events and shows, it's collapsed, it's gone, it's disappeared. And I don't even know, looking out on the horizon, how soon that'll come back. And, so I've just released and relinquished, and it's like the Gita is just, you got to let go of the outcome and stay focused on the day-to-day, focus on your practice, keeping the quality of the prayer strong and steady and consistent. And so we don't really have any choice. We got to let go of the future and stay focused on the present. Best thing to do is just to drop into my breath, slide the shoulders down, lift the heart, soften the skin, lengthen the spine, brighten the spirit, and really focus on what's in my domain,
You are a liberated soul. Thank you for that. That was a perfect answer. Why am I so frustrated? You've got it all together.
Well, I've had the good fortune, I had the good blessing of going to your classes, man. And I
you went to my class?
Yeah, many times, man. At the festivals, we should go. Where
did we meet?
It's a good question. I think we met. I think we met on the banks of a river in a dream in a celestial realm.
Okay, I believe that.
No, I had so
Raghunath
much,
doesn't believe anything.
yeah. I had so much fun at your class, man. You're such an awesome teacher. You're such a strong teacher, and you bring so much joy, and you're like strong, but there's a lightness. And I just remember being in your class and doing arm balances and just how fun it was. And I just really, really enjoyed practicing with you.
Thank you, Nick. You're kind. I can't remember where that was. Maybe Wanderlust or something like that.
Yeah, I think somewhere up it was on a mountain somewhere. I do remember that.
I think the yoga festivals are so much more fun now than they were in the old days. Do you remember the old days, the yoga journal conference?
Yeah.
Where you're in a hotel, the Marriott or something.
Where
You're like
everyone-
they clear all the chairs to one side. I always hated that.
The carpet.
Get it outside.
Yeah, I think I honestly, to answer your question, I think the future is outside. I think looking out, in 2021, 2022, I think there's going to be a real need and desire to come together in nature. And so it could be a blessing, man. There's an old saying like good or bad, we shall see. Good things happen and followed by bad things. Bad things happen followed by good things. And I think, navigating those waves, I know just for myself, I can dip into depression and get really down on the way things are and the whole system of, what we've created as human beings. Sometimes it can get really heavy and dark and depressing when I dwell on it. And then every time I come back to my practice, I'm able to sort of unstick and move back a little bit further from the waves and just kind of witness the waves and say, okay, well, it's a hard time now. There's a good time coming, and there's a good time now, and there's a hard time coming, and just kind of maintain a little more evenness. I love this definition of yoga as from Patanjali, is just softening the mind waves and not getting battered by them so much, and being able to kind of move through life with a little more ease and a little more grace, knowing that it's hard, it's going to be a struggle, it's difficult. Everyone we know is going to get sick and die, including our own body.
I'm not.
No, you're eternal soul. So, but abiding on that level, the eternal soul, I think that's the level of connecting to that place. Tying, tethering, rooting, anchoring, fastening ourselves to that eternal spark inside of us. And then we can allow the changes to happen, being less attached and less forceful in how we're trying to control and manipulate everything. And then I think things happen more naturally and more effortlessly. And so I think the agenda is to dissolve the agenda.
Well, I was gonna say your music seems to have kind of like come together effortlessly in a certain way, and it's a mixture of two. It's like a synthesis of really different influences. Like on one hand, the yoga tradition, and on the other hand, hip hop. And is there some common thread that you found in those two that you brought together, or you saw fit together naturally?
Yeah,
such a nice blend.
Yeah, it was. And thank you for that. It was actually, it's a funny story, but a long time ago, I cracked open a fortune cookie. I was at a restaurant, and I uncurled the little paper.
By the way, I fully believe.
No, I was going to say,
I fully believe the power of fortune cookies. And before I pick one, because there's 5 laid out.
Yeah, you gotta pick.
I roll my hand around it like a mystic, like a Reiki guy, and I just grab the right one, and it always is right on. Always.
I'll tell you share with you a good method when you're opening fortune cookies, is to grab them and then hand them out to everybody else first.
Oh, okay. You sound like you're deep into this fortune cookie.
It's another level, Raghu. He took it to another
level.
You thought you took it to another level. He took it to one more.
So I cracked this cookie open, and I unfurled that little scroll, that little piece of paper, and it said 3 words. It said, "Follow the love." And the thread that for yoga, music, dancing, art, design, all the things that I love, that's the common denominators. There's something about them that I'm gravitated toward them. I'm attracted toward them. I can't explain it. It's just the same thing I felt when I first saw my wife. And I literally, is a true story. When I first looked at my wife, I knew I was going to marry her the moment that I saw her.
So many people say that.
And it's not logical. It's not rational. It didn't make any sense.
How long before you got married?
I think about 2.5, 3 years.
My wife said she knew in 3 days. Yeah, she did. My son's looking at me like, no, she didn't. She did. You don't know the story. You don't know all the stories we have.
But sometimes you just get a flash. You can just get like, something. There's some kind of like spiritual alert system where it's like your spider senses start tingling, and you know something. You don't even know why you know it.
What's the Vedic thing about being married? You're married for 7 lifetimes. Have you heard that, Kaustubha?
Oh wow.
I've heard someone say that. I don't know where it came.
You've never heard that?
I've heard someone say, but I don't know where they were getting it from.
7 lifetimes you're with that person. I wonder if that means a divorce. If you're with that person, 7 divorces.
Well, maybe seven cycles. Yeah, like maybe I've heard the saying that marriages are arranged in heaven and celebrated on earth in terms of the astrology.
Well, the Mahabharata. We like taking things out of the ether that have no.
I thought you were going to say taking things out of context.
That have no shastric grounding, but we heard them somewhere. It was an Instagram post.
That's the Ethernet, man. That's the Akashic records.
So,
are
you saying that it's just that you loved hip hop and you loved the yoga tradition? So
yeah, and it didn't make sense. Like I kind of stumbled into it, and I never really thought that it was going to be a profession, or I just didn't know that any of these things were going to happen. It was just literally one day at a time, just really pursuing things that I was really genuinely in love with and really appreciated and valued and respected and just kind of moving deeper and deeper down that path. I mean, Raghunath, was that similar to you, like in the punk scene? Like,
yeah, we never thought it was going to be a band. We just sort of did it. And the next thing you know, it's sort of like you're going to an airport, they ask you your occupation. I was like, oh, I don't have an occupation. Oh, well, I guess I'm a musician.
It's kind of how it happens. Like, it just kind of happens. And I really do think that's how grace works is when you're really in that place of like being surrounded by what you love and cultivating what you love. Then, it's like Joseph Campbell says, when you follow your bliss where there were once walls, you'll now find doors. And I think things just happen. And I think sometimes when we get in our head and we try to, plan it, I think you do need some level of like, being able to, execute decisions. And especially when working on a record or a song, you need to finalize things. And that's always been a challenge. But there's something kind of mystical about like, where does sound come from? Like, how do sounds fit together? How do the bass line and the drums and how they stack?
Like the writing of the songs, and artists have said the same thing. I think Michelangelo said this, like, you feel like you have to almost surrender some part of your ego, and the song, it's almost like you're putting a puzzle that's already exists together. Have you ever felt like that?
Yeah, 100%. It's like Tetris, dude.
Tetris. Remember
that? By the
way,
we just got word from our Indian consulate here, Aravind from New Delhi. He says,
"Hey, Aravind.
7 lifetimes from the Samaveda." There's our Shastri. 7 lifetimes.
Okay. Beautiful.
We just have Aravind. Does it say anything about divorce in the Samaveda? I don't.
Well, it can't be any more than 7.
Can't be. Okay. All right. That's interesting. We were just talking about before the show started about Holi, and you were doing this Holi festival.
Mm-hmm.
That is like Holi festival.
Right.
Holy, it's not like Holy Mary, Mother of God. Holy, like Holy.
Well, it's all the same holy, really. It's all the same holy. Holy is holistic. It's everything. It encompasses all the forms. So it is. I understand what you're saying about the festival of colors.
Yeah.
The celebration of spring and what we were talking about, crowd surfing. And
that's what we always bring it back to crowd surfing.
We always bring it back to crowd surfing. And by the way, there was a couple of times where I climbed up on the rail to crowd surf, and there was a crowd there, but by the time I jumped in, they had all dispersed.
So that's the parting of the Red Sea.
Yeah, it just dangerous. But one time at the Festival of Colors, there was a massive crowd. There had to be like 20,000 kids, and it was just as far as the eye could see. And I saw that some kid had this inflatable raft. So I was like, hey, can I borrow that? And
wait a second. He was at a festival with an inflatable raft. Was there like water, or was it for crowd surfing.
It just was meant to be. It was there.
It was just,
It
it just appeared, man. The practice is the raft that takes you to the other shore.
Okay, go on.
So I borrowed the raft and I got up on the crowd and I started cruising down. And it was just amazing. And I had like a GoPro and we're filming it and it's just rocking. And I actually had the mic, so I was performing. And I get out in the middle of the sea, and then, you know, all the kids thought it'd be really fun to really rock, and kids were punching the bottom and going
the
like
kids
that.
always take it they always take it too far, I find. Like I get out there, I crowd surf, and one kid's like grabbing me by the beads or tearing my shirt off or like grabbing me by an ear. They have no they think you're like a mannequin or something. Like, yeah, just punch it. Just punch him. He's up there. He loves you. There's like a disconnect. They're not human.
But somehow, I mean, I didn't bail. Like the waters were pretty rapid, but I was able to kind of cruise back to the stage. But I'll never forget being in. Somehow, there was an inflatable raft, and another time happened with a stand-up paddleboard. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that's a good one.
That one was a little more solid.
They don't have hardcore show. They don't bring stand-up paddleboard.
No, I don't think
hardcore shows.
They don't bring a kayak or like little floaties.
No, they bring sometimes a baseball bat gets smuggled in, but
oh my god,
it's for other reasons. But the Holi Festival, I've only seen the videos of that, and it looks like incredible.
I'm so surprised that you haven't been to the one in Utah. I think you'd be like the perfect fit for that festival.
You know, I used to know. You know, the guy. We got to get the guy that runs that festival.
Charu. Yeah, talk to Charu.
We used to go there in the old days and stay there. We used to play in Salt Lake City.
Why don't we do this, bro? Why don't we hook it up and we'll go together?
All right, I'll go.
Because it's going to be like 2030, right?
I'll be an MC, not an MC. I guess the MC, like the master of ceremonies. Yeah, 2030. I'm gonna be so old. They're like, "Who's that old dude?" DJ Old, they're gonna call me.
Old school.
But anyway, I could introduce you. I could talk. I could make silly band.
No. You got it. I want to hear you singing. I want to see you crowd surf. I want to see you do your thing. I love seeing you perform. I've seen the footage of you guys like full throttle, just in the mix, and it is amazing. Like in Europe, some of those shows you guys did in Europe.
Yeah. All right, let's play. Us at MC Yogi. Let's shelter at MC Yogi. Tour. Let's do a tour.
2040.
2040. I'm not going to even want to look at myself in 2040. But anyway, the festival. If you don't know what the Festival Colors is, first of all, it shows the dedication when you get one person with a spiritual focus, or maybe a couple, Charu and Bobby. But there were this couple that ran this little ashram-like place in the middle of this like sort of like Utah farmland, deserty Utah thing.
And the temple,
all they had was
temple
camels. They had camels and it almost looked like a ski lodge type of a house.
I think there's llamas they have there.
Yeah, they had llamas. And I remember these two because they both had just good attitudes. I tell you, good attitude, whether it's material life or spiritual life, goes a long way. They both had great attitudes.
My grandpa used to always say that. He had an amazing attitude. Every day he'd say, "Oh, God, it's such a beautiful day." Even if it were gray outside, he didn't care.
There's something to be said about that, a good attitude. So Charu and Bobby, they had this attitude, and I remember being there with our band when we were brahmachari monks, and they had this thing inside, like, we are going to build a gigantic, Indian Vedic-style temple. And
it's epic.
Yeah. And in my brain, I was like, yeah, right. You're going to build this here? Come on, in the middle of, like, Mormon County? Whoever would build this? It's amazing. They built a giant there since they built it, but now they have this festival with how many thousands of people go to this festival?
Yeah, there's like 20, 30,000 kids. Like it's massive.
Throwing colors, MC Yogi leading the pack.
And what I love about it was, when you drive in, there's one side of the road because everybody's wearing white entering into the festival, and the tickets are really affordable, like $5 or something. And so everyone's just cruising in with their family. It's a real good feeling. There's no drugs, alcohol. And then on the other side, everyone's just technicolored, like rainbowed out. So there's like the one clean side going in, and then the completely like totally drenched in color side coming out. It's like a reverse car wash. Is awesome.
Kaustubha, have you ever been to India during Holi?
I have been, but I've been when I've been there many times for Holi, but I'm usually in Bengal where they don't really do it up. You've been in Vrindavan. I've never been in Vrindavan for Holi.
Oh, Vrindavan is quite out of control.
Yeah.
It's quite out of control. People just come right up to you, slap you in the face with a red hand. It's one of these things. If you're not familiar with this, is the Spring Festival of Colors, and it happens for like a month, 30 days, or 20 days, and you can do anything to anyone. You can literally. There's people like they flag down buses, get on a bus with a bucket of blue water, and just get the whole bus, and everybody's like, Holy! Everybody like, there's no, I mean, you could imagine if you just stopped the bus on the New York State Thruway and just, it's a religious event. We're just going to dump a thing of blue water on you. You would just get your butt kicked. Everyone accepts this as a spiritual, whether they're Hindu or not, they just say, this is a spiritual event. We're just going to get it. And then when it ends on a dime and you can't do it anymore. But yeah. That's truthfully some of my best times in India. I've been in northern India during Holi.
So beautiful. You know, you're talking about the temple and how it was so sort of strange for it to happen in Utah. Well, where I live in Northern California, I actually live down the street from. I think it's the largest Vedanta monastery in the world in terms of square acres. Like, so it's a retreat center, and I used to go every Tuesday, and this is the Ramakrishna order. This is Swami Vivekananda.
Yeah.
And every Tuesday I used to go and sit with the Swamis there, and we'd read from Uddhava Gita or Bhagavad Gita, and we'd have a study group. And it's literally just like a handful of us, and I was generally the youngest one there. A lot of old timers, really beautiful, beautiful souls. But it's kind of so bizarre because we're right in the middle of California, and it's just kind of like this hidden Hindu monastery that you would never imagine is there. And then you drive down this road, and there's all these massive trees that line the pathway, and there's the retreat center, and my friend Krishna lives down there. But it's just kind of like one of those random things that is just in the middle of.
Well, it's like these swamis that came in the 60s. They just bought up these properties at the right time. Like the one in Pacific Palisades.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in California, you might expect it. In Utah, a little bit less, I think, huh?
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah, little Utah, because it is pretty morbid. If you've never been to Utah before, it's pretty.
The Mormons helped him. The Mormons helped him build that temple.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Raghunath just wrote on the board. He said that he announced that they were building this temple. We were there on Janmashtami. They announced that they were building the temple, and there was not that many people. There were like 15 people at the Sunday feast. We were thinking, you're going to build this temple here? But, you know, there's something beautiful about spiritual people who get very focused in on something.
Yes, even a small group is sometimes it's like a small group of really devoted people can make amazing things happen.
Can you talk about your book a little bit, Prabhu?
Sure.
Spiritual Graffiti. It won an award. What was it called again? The Nautilus Award?
The Nautilus Award.
What does that mean?
I don't have no idea.
But I do with weightlifting or something.
Yeah, he's a weightlifter.
Mara, could you check that out? What is that Nautilus Award?
Hey, Google that up, Mara, please.
Will do.
So I could tell you the name, the title of the book was kind of interesting because I grew up in the 90s as a graffiti writer. I painted graffiti with my friends, and I used to run with a lot of taggers and skaters and drug dealers and my little crew of vandals. We actually had a graffiti crew called VCR, Vandals Causing Riots. We thought we were really cool, but we really weren't that cool.
Sounds pretty cool. Can I join?
We had our super baggy pants and backpacks, and we used to go to the stores and rack cans and go to the freight yards and paint trains and, sit around with our sketchbooks and draw pieces and tag. And I got arrested a bunch of times for graffiti. And So graffiti from early on, I probably started writing when I was like, 12 or 13, pretty young, started painting. And at that time in the Bay Area was a huge renaissance of street art. Now we see street art and it's like just massive. It's global. It's all over, but
It's normal. It's accepted. It's appreciated.
yeah, at that time it was not at all. I mean, it was a real kind of a hardcore time to paint, and all kinds of stuff was happening. And but in San Francisco, sort of the area where I was painting and hanging around, there was this amazing resurgence of artists like Shepard Fairey. I don't know if you know, like
Sure.
Obey and Mike Giant and Barry McGee or Twist, and this amazing woman Reminisce who painted these white horses. So you'd go through the city and you just, out of the corner of your eye, you'd see this white stallion running across building tops, and all these cartoon characters and amazing letter style, and a lot of influence from the New York style. And so I grew up just surrounded by that, and I really was in love with graffiti. My dad took me to this place in the city. We were downtown. It was a parking lot. It was called Psycho City. And I remember being a little boy, and it was kind of the first time I became aware of graffiti. And there was these towering figures of characters, like cartoon characters. And I'd always grown up, I'm an artist, so I always grew up drawing cartoons. And I used to read Garfield, and I was always into The Simpsons and The Far Side, Gary Larson, or is it Jim Larson? Gary Larson.
I think
Gary?
Yeah.
Gary, yeah. And so I just, I grew up reading comic books, so I was always very visual and into graphics. And when I first saw graffiti, it literally like blew my mind that you could paint on the wall like that and bring so much color and life and energy and style. So I really got deep into graffiti. But that kind of led me, that was a part of my sort of my juvenile delinquent days when I started hanging out with my friends who ended up going to juvenile hall and jail and getting in trouble for drugs and guns and
how did this okay, well, be a book spoiler here. How did you turn yourself around? What was the magic moment where like, where's God? This can't be going right. What was it? What was that turning point? Kaustubha told the story how he got stabbed, and that was sort of like a wake-up call. Did you have one of these wake-up calls?
Yeah, I had like
push.
You know what it was? The wake-up call was that snooze button where it's like wake up call, snooze, wake up call, snooze, wake up call, snooze. I just kept hitting snooze, and then at a certain point it was like, the universe just shakes you out of your complacency, and you have to do something different. You have to change. So in my case, it was, I got kicked out of about 3 schools. I was failing. Things were escalating. Drugs were getting worse. My drug use was pretty basic. It was always just like alcohol and weed and cigarettes. But a lot of the drugs around me were like cocaine and meth, and, some harder drugs were starting, my friends were selling, and it was getting bad, and so I had to sort of make a decision. I ended up going to live in a group home for 2.5 years. And that was kind of the moment when I really kind of hit bottom. And
what's a group home, like rehab?
Yeah, group home is like a reform school. It's like 12 guys in a house, and I think there was maybe like 12 houses on the property, and some kids were there for so they didn't go to juvie, or kids from all over the Bay Area. And
how did that turn into God and gods? Like, how did that turn into like the Eastern conception of spirituality, and how did it turn into like God? I can understand, like, I got to stop taking drugs. Graffiti is going to be arrested. My friend sells meth. That can't be good. How did that turn to God? How did those two come together?
So let's see, I think there was I'm going to say there's about three little jewels along the way that kind of pointed me in a different direction. One of them was my mom gave me this book called Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kaustubha loves that one.
Yeah, and that kind of started turning me on to Dharma. And then the BC Boys came out with this record. It was written by MCA called Bodhisattva Vow.
Yep.
And that turned me on to Dharma.
Who did we have?
We had Mike D.
We had Mike D last week.
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Mike's a great guy. And, so that was really pivotal. And then another one was my dad started practicing yoga. He was meditating. He was spending time at this ashram in Oakland. And yeah, he started practicing Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga with his good friend Larry Schultz, who ended up becoming my teacher. He and Larry used to travel and teach yoga to the Grateful Dead. And in the book, I'm not going to go too deep into like the whole way of how I ended up meeting Larry, but basically those three things. It was my mom gave me this book, I heard this song, and my dad started practicing yoga. And for whatever reason, that combination, something clicked inside of me, and I started to become really interested and attracted to Dharma and Dharmic teachings. And then when I left the group home when I was about 17, I graduated high school late. My dad, I begged my dad to take me to yoga because he said, I noticed he had totally changed. He was more calm, more serene, more healthy. He had lost weight. He was more happy and more satisfied than I'd ever seen him before. It felt like he had really found his like true self.
How old are you at this point?
About 16, 17.
Okay.
There's a new generation, Kaustubha, of people whose parents do yoga. We're not from that generation. Because we're from an older generation.
They do yoga.
And so he, his field of energy communicated to me on some level that was not on the logical level, because he told me, don't do yoga, it's too hard, you won't like it, it's not for you, it's probably not your thing. And maybe it was that reverse psychology, but I think even deeper than that, it was the quality of his presence.
That's a really interesting thing, just that I would imagine if you're going through trouble as a youth, he was probably telling you to straighten up and this is going to be good for you, but it wasn't so much what he said to you, but how his own kind of presence changed that influenced you.
I think that's more, it's oftentimes when you're telling someone what to do, it's because probably you're not doing it.
I'm just having a big moment here. I've been waiting for somebody to say that to me my whole life.
Okay, please continue. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for asking. It's a great question. And so those three things kind of led to me falling on the yoga mat for the first time. And I was a wreck when I got onto the yoga mat. I could barely touch my knees. I was stiff. I was, I'd been going through depression and I'd gone through therapy, and the doctor said that I probably had ADD and I should take Ritalin and all this stuff. And to my mom's credit, she was like, it's up to you. It's your body. If you want to take it, it's your call. And I was like, nah, I don't really want to get into that. That was just that's how I felt. And I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I found yoga instead. And I started, becoming more holistic and more healthy, and followed my dad's footsteps. And then once I hit the mat, bro, it was like no turning back. Like, cause then I started getting on the Ashtanga yoga train, and that just kind of led me on this journey, on this path that introduced me. I mean, it's really why I'm here on this call, because my practice has kind of opened all these doors. And so then I've been writing rhymes my whole life. So, for me, writing rhymes was just like my own personal mental practice. And I write, to be honest, I write a lot of stuff that I just don't even release or put out, just for my own sort of mental fitness.
Right.
Dunya says you're a great, Dunya just wrote in, who's a great musician too, by the way, if you haven't heard her. But she said, Nick is an incredible freestyler. Want to freestyle something for us?
Yeah, I'll share with you this thing. So what I do is I kind of construct it in my head. Freestyle could be just like complete stream of thought, like off the top of the dome, which I do that too. But I'll share with you this piece that I've been constructing in my head. That's just been my, lately a lot of my rhymes have been geared toward meditation, inspiration, and really communicating my internal experience and just trying to process it through my words. So it goes like this: escape the net, don't let yourself get caught, tangled, twisted mind, tied up in these knots, trapped in the web, spread across the head, following the thread of the breath instead, fraught by desire, caught up in these wires. More struggle, more the ropes grow tighter, not this, not this, not this, detach. Unstick it from the surface, draw the mind back, backtrack. Through these sense hallways, eye of the needle slip through the crawl space. Into the place where the walls fall away. Everything is made of particles and waves. The light of a million suns shines in us all. Let the mind drop back, collapse and fall to a light so bright the mind just dissolves. Remove your shoes, enter the temple. Road made of diamonds, traveling this winding path that leads back into the timeless bliss that exists. Feel it shine deep inside us. Snakes uncoil, royal, they don't strike us. Taking refuge underneath the holy ficus, lotus throne known by the pious. Pure awareness, abiding in the silence. The only prerequisite to enter it is kindness. To enter the treasure, hidden in the center. Balance both sides, effort and surrender. Steady practice, strike the matchstick, incense lit. Time to stretch the fabric. Open every door and drawer of the cabinet. Draw the mind back toward the central magnet. Ancient science written on papyrus, discovering the bliss that exists behind these eyelids. There's a treasure in the center, treasure in the center, treasure in the center that's too deep to measure. There's a treasure in the center, treasure in the center, treasure in the center that's too deep to measure. It can never be destroyed, it can never be severed, and it shines forever. So that's a kind of like
Woo! I got held up at holy ficus. Holy ficus. Is that a word? Did you say that or did I make that up?
It's called ficus religiosus or something like that, right?
I don't know.
That's the tree. That's the Bodhi tree. That's
the ficus. Oh, it's a Bodhi tree.
Yeah.
I was
You
like,
know what
ficus, holy ficus, holy ficus.
What I loved about that was just that you're going back and forth there between like these, I don't know, metaphysical conceptions, and then bringing it down to the ritual thing, like, you know, take off your shoes and enter the temple, right? Like that's the kind of thing people do without thinking. But when you put it into that whole metaphysical framework like that, then you begin to like, it becomes more meaningful, right? Like,
yeah,
hey, let's take off our shoes and enter into the temple. You know, it's like, I'm entering into that, you know, I'm going to get in touch with something here, you know, and I'm going to do a little something special before I do it so that I'm aware of it. And it's beautiful. I really love your stuff. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I think taking off your shoes it's like removing the ego, because I think we all need an ego to navigate the world. We all need like a thick skin to be able to maneuver through this world of obstacles. But when it's time to return to the self and enter the temple, you got to remove that. Otherwise, those boots are too cloggy, man. They can't make it. They can't make it cross the threshold. You start tripping and you muddy everything up, you know. So slip off those Uggs.
You know, you're mentioning now to us how asana and yoga and dharma, how they helped you from being a troubled youth and kind of gave you a new path. And I'm wondering, so you've been practicing asana now for how long?
About 20 years.
Okay. And whether it's asana specifically or even the broader yoga, dharma that you're speaking of, is there a way now as an older man that you look back, or let me put it this way, does it mean something different to you? Do you see it in a different way? How has it changed for you as you've grown older?
I think when I was younger, I saw it more as like fantasy, more as like sort of sci-fi. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so for me it was like, you know, becoming a Jedi, like learning about the ways of the Force, and really inside that sort of kind of teenage boy's mind of like, this is so cool, this is so trippy, this is so mystical. Like
I feel that through your music too, that you have a way of putting it in that context through your lyrics.
I think some part of me is stuck as like, probably because I stopped developing when I was 16. So, but I think that, so, you know, just growing up with comic books and those types of things, and being an artist like that I always gravitated toward the myths and the stories because they were so fantastic and out of the ordinary and extraordinary and other dimensional. And it really it helped me escape my reality, to be honest. Like when I put my headphones on and listen to music, a mixtape, or if I crack open a book and read one of the myths, it helped me escape the pain and the suffering I was feeling in my own life, like when my parents were getting divorced, or when I was flunking out of school or getting arrested, or, you know, struggling with, you know, just growing up. I think that spiritual tradition really helped me to envision something greater, something deeper, something beyond. And then as I've gotten older, now I feel like it's not so much that that's still there, but it's more like, okay, this is like absolutely necessary. Like, this is my absolute anchor, and this is my lifeline. This is my raft. And it's not a luxury. It's not a hobby. It's not a side project. It's in the center of my life. So if I don't have this, I'm not going to make it, basically, because life can be so intense. And if there's not something shining in the center that I can use to pull me back into orbit with some kind of truth, or direct experience of the divine, then I'm kind of, then I'm lost. And it's very easy to get lost. And as I've grown older, I've just found how incredibly valuable it is to have a sadhana or a spiritual practice that I can come back to and return, to be able back into the temple, back into the shining self, back into the center, back into the middle. And so, yeah, it's been, at first it was fun, and there's still a lot of joy, but I think it's just become more and more real and necessary.
Thank you. Now, I was wondering also, your music's brought you a certain level of success. You play on stages for tens of thousands of people.
I used to. I think I'm kind of retired now, man.
Okay.
We might all be retired.
Yeah.
We just have no retirement fund.
But the let's say the fame or success, or however you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel a tension with that?
Yeah.
A tension with that and the yoga practice, which is kind of like calling to go deeper into humility and.
Yeah.
How do you do it? I mean, part of your work is to be real big. It's part of like your persona. And how do you deal with the ego that can come with being real big? What's your magic secret?
Well, first step is to be married.
I'm with you on that.
Let's hear about that. Let's hear it. We were talking about marriage. We had a question about marriage yesterday. We have questions and answers on Saturdays.
Sure. And then second step, just really quickly, is your family.
I'm with you on that.
And then third step is washing the dishes and taking out the compost and
doing the menial stuff.
No.
Menial service.
No way.
And you're not with that, Raghu?
No, not with that.
That's where you draw the line.
But these things, you find that these things become essential.
Yeah, I think that the fame is an illusion. It's a mind field. It's the ego's playground. It's kind of the opposite direction of practice.
I love that, the ego's playground.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish fame on anyone. And I don't even think
Can you wish a little on me, please?
I'll give you a little fame.
Want to play around a little with it?
I just want to play around the playground a little bit.
Well, I think what we see over and over, time and time again, is that fame, fortune, all those types of things, they're fickle, and you think that they're going to bring you happiness, and what you realize is they only bring you more problems. And then when you have all those things that you thought were going to bring you happiness, it cakes up and creates this whole nother layer that separates you from yourself, because you've created this whole complex, and your identity becomes so thick and entangled. And I love this idea, or this realization, that I am not what I see, hear, taste, touch, think, experience, because all those things can be experienced through the senses, and they're temporary, they're impermanent, and that ultimately we are the seer. And the more we can relax into that space of being the seer, and then fulfill all those roles and obligations and duties without attachment, then I think there's a level of, like, you can participate in the world without being trapped in the world. And it's just, it's a fine balance, and I stumble into my ego all the time, and it's just creates suffering for me and the people I love around me, and it's no fun. And but then at the same time, like, if you're going to be a performer or an artist, like, you need some kind of persona or personality so that you can be in the world and kind of stand out. But then sometimes I'm like, standing out is not that great. Like, it's like, I'd rather blend in with spirit and relax and be natural and normal. And
you know what I do, Nick, is You know, I love the idea what you said. You have to be married to be that big. It really assists you in the grounding process. I
Yeah.
couldn't do anything I do if I wasn't married.
Well,
And
that's the Shakti, man. That's the real, that's what we're in service to. That's the real power. And
What
without
is it
that,
about
I think we're lost.
marriage that you find is so helpful, or so? Let me phrase it this way.
Yeah.
Some people might say, no, that marriage is just a whole nother ego thing. I possess this person, or something like that. You use it immediately as a remedy to ego. And so how do you see that?
Well, say you're a monk, say you've taken sannyas and your marriage is to Krishna. So whatever it is that you're, it's what you're in service to. And for me, I just find that my wife is so much smarter and wiser than I am, and just so much like better than me on like so many levels, that it's just like this blessing, because I always feel like she really does truly have my best interest at heart. Like she wants me to be healthy and happy and relaxed, and I want that for her. I want to support her in her projects, her painting, and I love when she's happy, and I feel like that kind of relationship, and it could be, I don't know if it has to necessarily just be husband and wife. I'm sure that experience manifests in a lot of different ways. But for me, that just seems to be my primary.
It sounds like you're saying because the selflessness gets real there.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're an artist, you're very self-absorbed, because you're very
like your own little
focused.
Lord Brahma creating
Yeah.
universes.
Yeah. You think you're so cool and awesome. And like,
And you got a whole group of people that are telling you are cool and awesome, and they're creating this. If I could just share one thing, and Joe Adamo on the chat board saying the same thing.
I'm going to plug in real quick because this conversation's got me feeling a little disconnected. Okay.
Plug in. Tune into. But I feel like if the material world is to make you feel like I am the center, it's all about me. It's very easy to run with that.
Yeah.
If you're on the center of a stage and 20,000 people are going, you are the center. And you're like, yeah, finally, the whole world is finally getting that I'm the center. The best way to crack that macadamia nut is to get married. Because when you're married, you immediately, it's grounding. You're no longer absolutely right. Now, some people say, no, in my marriage, I wear the pants. Oh, yeah? Then plop out a couple kids. There's nothing more ego-shattering, and you no longer the center once you have a 2-year-old. That 2-year-old can crack you. It can really make you realize it's not all about you anymore. It's about more than you. And that's why I think family, these two things you mentioned, marriage and family, are these two of the healthiest things for people on a spiritual path, because it gets them right out of their ego real quick. Yeah. There's no time to be a rock star. It's not welcome in the home. You do it on stage and you pull back. Yeah. I'm sure you go through that all the time.
Yeah. Well, I actually have a great deal of respect for you, because not only do you have an amazing partner, an incredible family, but you've got a farm, right?
We got a big farm here.
And that's a whole nother level of being, tending to the land and making sure the animals are taken care of. Like that's just another layer of really showing up and being present. And I don't know, I have a tremendous, I think, musicians and artists are cool, but I think what's even cooler are farmers.
Farmers. I love farmers too.
Yeah.
I'm a gentleman's farmer. Not really.
There you go.
What do you think, Mara? Am I a farmer? Mara, no.
No.
Oh, throw me a bone, Mara.
Sorry.
You chop some wood sometimes.
I chop wood. I've got 2 sheep now. The sheep died. We got
and chickens and ducks.
And dogs and a few ducks. We don't have ducks.
A little bit of farming going on.
But don't you experience like for me, when my dog was alive, like, don't you experience like just having an animal in your life is a similar feeling? Like it just really humbling and grounding.
Nick, you don't understand. I agree with you. Mara coming from left field saying I have nothing to do with farming.
Just saying you're not a traditional farmer. That's all.
I'm not a traditional farmer. I'm a punk rock Bhakti-yoga farmer.
There you go.
Let's what do you call it? We got to wrap it up. Let's get to the. Can we end with one more question? What's on our question list, Kaustubha?
Well, how about this? That, you know, we kind of started here, but maybe we can end here too. Is that our world's going through a lot of changes right now, obviously, and there's a strong sense of polarity. Seems people are having a very difficult time hearing each other out. Really, we're fighting rather than trying to understand one another. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of depression, a lot of fear. Could you offer some advice, you know, for people that are struggling to pass through this uncertain time? Just something that you've gained through your practice, through your dharma, through your yoga, that for our listeners that can help us.
Well, just, you know, kind of dovetailing what we were just talking about. I think it's just taking care of people, plants, and animals. Like, I think it's pretty basic. I think it's in our DNA. Like, we all have it inside of us, and maybe we've gotten, you know, I can't speak for anyone else's experience. I just can speak for my experience. And I know that, you know, when I'm showing up for my wife and watering the house plants and, you know, focusing on those simple little things that I can take care of that are in my domain, I feel more calm and more relaxed. And I think, you know, of course, the basic is being able to develop our own internal marriage, which doesn't have to be an external partner, but it can be, you know, when we're married and united and connected to something that's bigger than us, our personality, our you know, something deeper, something more profound, something timeless, something that's always been here. You know, the yogis have so many eloquent ways of talking about, you know, the Atman, Para-Atman, Adipurusham, like the shining self, the all-encompassing one, the radiant soul, you know, that power, that energy, that presence that sustains the universe, that keeps the planet turning, keeps our heart beating, the power that lit the sun, the power that heals our wounds. I think that energy, that field, you know, that light, that love, that grace is ultimately what is going to satisfy us, and nothing else will. And there's a lot of different pathways into it, through service, karma yoga, through knowledge, self-inquiry, jnana yoga, through devotional service, unbroken devotional practice, bhakti yoga. The yoga tradition is so vast and so deep and so rich, and there's really something for everyone. So many different doorways into the same space. You know, we talk about Holi, that which encompasses everything. And so, yeah, I think, you know, sadhana, you know, developing your personal practice, something that connects you to nature and to yourself, and makes you feel more harmonious with everyone around you. I think there's nothing greater than that in my experience.
Thank you so much.
Hit the button. Nick, thank you so much. We're really grateful. We really appreciate your contribution to the whole world. If you're unfamiliar with MC Yogi, you must check him out. At least go to Spotify immediately and check it. He's got how many CDs?
Can I give a big shout out to the brother Tim Cook, who helped put us together?
Tim Cook,
my
your
buddy,
manager, and my old friend of mine. And
big shout out to Tim. And let's do it again. Can we do it again?
Yeah, we
Absolutely.
can do it again. We love you, man. We love you. We love your
too.
vow. We love your message. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. MC Yogi,
Thanks,
always
Mara.
impressed and inspired by you and your lifestyle. If you're new to this show, welcome aboard. We've created a platform to support us if you like what we're doing. It's called Patreon. You go to patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages. An entry-level donation is $1. That means for the price of, I don't even know, I can't even say a cup of coffee, because a cup of coffee is more than $1. What's $1?
I don't know.
Maybe a lotto ticket. I'll have a lotto ticket.
A lottery ticket. For the price of vault of yoga wisdom. Metaphysical mentors pop up. Workshops on everything from studying kirtan, Ayurveda meditation, Ayurvedic cooking, sacred stories, karma theory. I just made that up. As well as we have asana school going on nonstop, practically every day. You get it for $1, and not only that, but we have an active, growing 12-step Bhakti recovery group community. That's getting bigger and bigger.
Are they meeting today, or have they already met today?
I think they already met today.
They already met today, but we're gonna try to get it 7 days a week. That's what we're working for.
That's awesome, dude.
And if you are a Patreon member and you feel, you know what, I'm getting something substantial out of this, and you like the service, then you have the ability to up your pledge. You can up to $1 million if you want. People have been upping it from $1 to $10 or $1 to $20, and it may not seem like a lot to you to up it for $5 or $10, but it means a lot to us. We really appreciate it, and we really love what we're doing here. We're trying to keep this boat floating. So thanks, everybody. Nick, we love you.
Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for all the Zoomers checking in late. I didn't say good morning to. And now, you know what we do, Nick? This is the funnest part of the whole show. We just dance around a Zoom screen like a bunch of insane people. And then I lip sync this stuff. I drag my daughter by the wrist. We pull her into it. He's hiding in the corner so he won't get here. And I fake like I'm singing this. Mara usually goes off camera and spins around like a whirling dervish. Gentlemen, oh!